feel like one of the biggest signs of Western decay is our complete wholesale abandonment of really any kind of reasonable standard of sexual morality. Today, as long as it's consensual and with a person of age of consent, it seems to be completely okay. You get complete buy-in, it's considered fine, good, or at best, an amoral activity. Nothing bad about it, nothing that should be quote-unquote judged, just something that two consenting adults are partaking in with each other. And I feel like, especially in 2024, the general public is becoming more conscious of this denigration, that there needs to be some kind of standard and moral law. And thankfully there's a lot of discussions happening about this. There's recently a debate/discussion between Destiny, a very well-known leftist streamer and debater, and Trent Horn, a well-known Catholic apologist and debater as well. They were recently on the Whatever podcast, and I just wanted to take some time to react to it with you guys, my first time watching it, and see what they had to say. So let's go ahead and get to it.
And, there are studies that show, I have one right here that shows that married people who more frequently view porn, even if it's together, even if it's like we're consenting, this is a thing we're doing together, are more likely to experience marital dissatisfaction down the line than couples that do not look at porn together. So pornography has a pernicious effect even on consenting couples who are saying, we're doing this together, it's so great.
That was a longitudinal study based on the social science survey with 2,000 people. It's not just like a correlative effect.
So even if in our minds we rationalize and we live in the unreality of this is not affecting me, I can have this open marriage or I can have this open relationship and my partner can look at porn or have another sexual relationship, it still affects you in the real world, and it still affects your long-term potential for happiness and fidelity, or not just fidelity, but happiness and fulfillment in the relationship. And so we can tell ourselves a theory or a myth of like, hey, it's going to be okay, I'm cool with this, but in reality it doesn't work that way in the long run.
But see, like with a lot of this, I'm not sure if you guys are really frustrated looking up this stuff too, because so many studies conflict when it comes to porn and viewing, and it's like women who view pornography report higher sexual satisfaction when they view it with a partner. In fact, the data on women,
why would that be, Jasmine? Why would that be?
What do you mean, why would that be?
Well, you just said women report higher satisfaction if the porn is being viewed with a partner, because at least they feel like I'm not being 100% cheated on in this moment.
No, I don't think I think you're just putting your framework on everybody else. Like, I'm a woman too. I don't care if my partner watches porn. It's not just me trying to satisfy him. It's not just me being like, and I think a lot of people, you have to separate being with another partner physically versus porn, because I think the numbers there would be vastly different on who's okay if their partner, when they're not around, is watching porn versus who's okay with them sleeping with another person in real life. I think you're going to get widely different opinions there from girlfriends, wives, women on whether that's okay or not.
I would say when we look at the studies, like for example, in 2023, Engelkamp et al. Published a study in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, and it did a quantitative analysis, and the most common themes among couples where the man views pornography is that the woman is glad that he talked about it openly, but disapproves, or is allowing the husband to look at pornography but does not want to hear about it. So I think you would say that only a minority of women are positively in favor of this. It's either negative or ambivalent.
Well, and I think the point is the longitudinal study you mentioned and I mentioned is that even those that say they're in favor of it and are like watching it as a couple have worse outcomes down the line. And I think that's part of the the point here is that even if you're in a very unique situation, you're making your living doing this thing, right? And so in your mind, of course, it's going to be great. And you're going to defend it and say it's going to be great. But the reality is even people that are defending it or saying it's fine in my marriage down the line don't have the best outcome.
Yeah, so I could definitely say, as a guy who has dealt with the demons of lust and pornography, I was exposed to pornography at a very young age, has dealt with the addiction to that only until maybe 6 to 9 months ago. Thanks be to God. Men, we're visually stimulated, right? We are most turned on by the exposition of a very scantily clad, submissive, beautiful woman, right? And C.S. Lewis spoke about this, how by masturbation and especially pornography, essentially what the man is doing is creating this kind of imaginary life where we have this harem of women that we have access to all the time, and that we get the ultimate sexual satisfaction from all these women, and they also get it. Especially if you're watching pornography, they always act like they're having a great time. I very doubt that they do. And by creating this selfish delusion, really, of your sexual life, even if you have a real sex life with a partner or with a wife, it makes you a sexually selfish person. And why would it not? By your own nature, you're going to begin to see your wife as maybe an inconvenience, a same old. Of course, it's going to lead to less sexual satisfaction because, as I'm sure a lot of women would attest, the man becomes complacent with her because he doesn't really feel the need or drive to do anything for her because, while he's all alone in his dark corner, with his laptop, he's just able to have anything he wants, any kind of sexual fantasy 24/7, and have all the satisfaction he wants, aside from it actually being a beautiful woman to have sex with, right? Of course, there's going to be less sexual satisfaction. I think it just makes sense, but of course, the deadly sins always drive rationalizations from us,
Me Too is a response to people seeing women as commodities that they can acquire and seeing sex as a means of acquiring that commodity, basically. It's responding to a dehumanizing view of sex. Now, I agree, many people don't have that view, but I do think that the hedonistic view of sex does lead to that. But here's the question I wanted to ask, just to get back to what sex is for and why I think it shows that this view of sex is absurd. All right. Suppose you had a friend and they said, because this is parlaying on the idea that sex is just it's a hedonistic activity people can share with consent. Like, say, for example, like martial arts. I start martial arts with somebody without their consent, I'll go to jail because that's assault, right? Like, just go out and punch somebody. But I can ask them, hey, do you want to spar with me a little bit?
Okay.
And then that's okay because we have consent and it's this kind of activity. Now, imagine that would it be healthy to have a friend who says, hey, I'm glad you and I are getting into martial arts together, but I really feel like we can only be friends if you only do martial arts with me. Or we can only be friends if you only do tennis with me. Or I want you to be my only friend. You're the only friend that I have. With those examples, would you say that those are disordered friendships?
Probably, yeah.
All right, so my next question would be, is it disordered for someone to say, I want you to be the only person I have sex with, you're the only person who has sex with me? Do you think that's disordered?
Not necessarily, no.
What's the difference between activities that are pleasurable and consensual, martial arts, chess, tennis, spending time together, and sex then? What is the difference between the two, that one is disordered, it's a friendship you should not get in, and the other we would say not even that it's not disordered, but it's the way things ought to be.
It might be the love of your life in marriage.
What's the difference?
The difference is going to be the preference of the people that are partaking in these things. Some people might feel like they like to do martial arts with a lot of people, and for sexual activity, I think people tend to prefer to be more exclusive with that. There's probably other things we could think of.
Is that natural? Or should we think like that's the way they ought to treat sex?
Whether or not it's natural or not is a separate question.
Well, it seems obvious that if someone says, I want you to be my only friend, and you can't have other friends, we'd say that's a friendship you probably shouldn't get into, right?
Generally, yeah.
Then why?
If we're going to use
why don't we say the same thing then about I want you to be the only person I have sex with? In fact, we say that's a good.
So if we're talking about sex work, if a subscriber told to me, you're the only person I'm the only person I want you to have, I would say no. That's not the context of this.
Yeah, because you're selling a business and you can't have one customer.
That's a very interesting question. I hadn't really thought about putting that forth when we think about any kind of other consensual activity that we agree to partake with other individuals and sex. What is the difference? I think some of the initial questions that come to mind are obvious. It's the most vulnerable thing you can do with someone and the most intimate thing you can do with somebody. I mean, you're literally taking off all your clothes and you are becoming one body. I mean, just to bring it to scriptural reference, right? Again, it's super vulnerable. It's extremely honest, and not wanting to lose sight of that initial thought, that question of what makes sex different from any other consensual activity. Especially women know this. If a guy has sex with you and with other women, he's obviously using you. Like, obviously. He just sees you as an object to play with. Whereas if he only exclusively has sex with you, he is not only making sacrifice by him devoting himself to you exclusive till death, really shows how much he wants the best for you through thick and thin. And then being able to be honest, not just from that sacramental and legal perspective in regards to marriage, but also when it comes to the true expression of that. I mean, the Catholic Church teaches that every time a wife and husband have sex, the marital act, they are renewing their marital vows. He is putting re-emphasis on that ideal of exclusivity and dedication to his wife through the marital act. That's a lot. Let's keep going.
Jasmine, what's the difference between porn use and problematic porn use?
Problematic porn use is where people personally identify, that's the medical term, with it being a problem in their lives, which is a very small, the only representative sample we have puts it at like 4%
Is
of
it
men.
possible for someone to use porn in a bad way if they don't personally feel anything bad about it?
What do you mean? Can you give me an example of how using porn in a bad way?
A husband looks at porn, talks to OnlyFans girls, masturbates to them, and his wife hates it, but he doesn't think it's a big deal, and it's really hurting their marriage.
Yeah, just like if he drinks alcohol too much and she doesn't like it, but he still does it, that's bad. It's bad when people violate the boundaries.
Now, let me try another one then. Let's say...
Wait, hold on. No, she defined it as problematicness is only when people think it's a problem. It really comes back to this big core problem of truth is subjective, and I'm able to make it, which is something only God can do. And that's why this idea is really just satanic. It's Satan's way of us replicating his fallen act of trying to be God and falling from grace from the most perfect angel to the most defective thing in the universe. So by us, this idea of us creating truth, creating when is a problem, when it's not, then creates this infinite possibility of us making the bad good. So it's not a problem. I mean, it's whatever makes you happy. And that's the thing, is like, if we're just basing on happiness, which is totally subjective feeling, like what is happiness? Is that fulfillment? Is that joy? Is that bliss? Like, what are you talking about with happiness? And I think that's just a dumb thing to base your life purpose on. But that aside, by us making standards for how we should be in relationships with the other, especially in romantic and sexual relationships, subjective, that's going to lead us to make us sexual commodities, like completely. And that's what's happening. I mean, women walk down the street looking like prostitutes. If you go to a typical strip bars, like the bar hopping place, you're going to see women like half naked. It's because they live in a society where they've become sexual commodities. And they're trying to, in this seventh wave feminism, they're trying to make it like they're empowered and taking it back. Like they're a boss bitch by showing off their boobs and butt, but like they're obviously not. They're literally just walking objects, and they're making themselves be taken less seriously because that's all you're wanting to bring to the table, when literally the exact opposite of you not putting it out, you expecting high standards of men and not getting in bed with them until they make that lifelong commitment of marriage. You literally have the cards and you just gave them up, acting as if that was your power play. There's so much possibility for us to lower each other from humans created in the image of God and worthy of that kind of love, devotion, and respect, to simply just sexual objects for us to completely take advantage of. As long as they give consent. Who cares if I denigrate you, right?
If there's a woman who's 13, 14, I was one of these and I was like, ooh, choking kind of hot. And then when I got a boyfriend, I was like, I want to try choking. And we both agree that this is what we want to do. How is that harmful?
Are you saying that it's not bad for a 13-year-old girl to seek out choking porn?
No, I don't think it's bad. I think if that's what
so
you're
then
into,
so you think maybe it's a good thing to show that they're part of
I
sexual
don't think
violence?
it's wrong for girls when they're exploring their sexuality and they do that through porn if they like being dominated. Like I'm one of these girls to see that represented.
Would it be
in
wrong for
porn.
an adult to show a 13-year-old girl that?
Yes, but that's different. It's different because there's an imbalance thing. You're not supposed to show.
No, this is really just so showing of the evil of like, it's not bad unless you think it's bad, and unless it's shown against your will. No, it's bad, yes or no, and it's bad whether you choose to do it or whether you're forced to do it.
If it's two people of the same age and they're just exploring what each other likes and there's consent and both people are comfortable with it and it turns them on, it's okay for them to explore.
Wait, now let's go back then. So it sounds like what you're saying is, so fine, 13, how about a 10-year-old girl is looking up this stuff?
I mean, that's really young, but I think that's still part of like normal exploration.
Man, it's just, this is a lot. It's just crazy that we're here. I mean, for us to be so brazen about it and defending it, and as that, like, defending the exposure of pornography to children as progress. Not just something that's neutral, as something that needs to be done. Like, we need to do this. And it's not like educational. I just want to educate children on their changing bodies. Obviously they need to know that even at like around 5th grade, right? For them to be shown pornography and have that be like, oh no, it's fine, that's just part of exploring your sexual wants. Remember when they used to say that homosexuality wasn't a choice? But now they're saying, oh well, it's just exploring. Just ridiculous, and it's just so evil. So evil.
You human beings tend to twist and molest everything they dip their toes in. You religious folks should know that well. How do you propose we better build healthy, functional adults? Hussar milker? I have no idea what that means, but how do you propose we better build healthy, functional adults? I don't know if that's
virtue
really worth it. Okay.
Habitual predisposition to choose the good.
Okay.
I think you have to have a realistic assessment, and you have to acknowledge the real biological forces that exist in people, rather than trying to design systems around virtues that are of religion or other sorts of origination. We've seen this fail over and over and over again, and it has failed, and it will never come back. The idea that sex can just be confined to one marital thing is just something that, even for most of human history, hasn't gone well.
I think when people try to have...
Hold on. How do you create... From our biological... So what? Every kind of drive we have is just fine? Like, there are times when we want to kill each other. And understandably so. Like, if your daughter was raped, tortured, and murdered, and then you knew who that was, would you not have some kind of drive to kill them? Maybe even worse, like torture them? Wouldn't you? I'd understand if you would. Is that okay? Like, it's just Sam Harris kind of morality through science, which is so stupid because science can't even decide what is worth studying. How do you decide what's worth studying? Well, what would be good to study? Well, what's good? That's not a scientific question, nor a question that science could answer.
Relationships where sex is open and can be shared with lots of people, that's where we see failure.
Sure, but we see 50% of marriages fail that don't even have those issues. So it seems like I think that the better thing to do is to say there are different...
Half of marriages do end in divorce, but that includes 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th marriages. And if you were to look at relationships that had the same religion, same views on money, views on children, views on, I mean, general values, and even like, how close you want to live with the in-laws, your success rate skyrockets. And understandably so. I mean, that would make sense. So I really just want to clear the statistic of half of marriages fail. Yeah, but that's not all. It's like acting as if all marriages are equal, which they're not.
Different ways you can engage with sex. Here are the pros. Here are the cons. If you engage with it in this way, things like this can happen, or things like this can happen. And then if you engage with it this way, here are the good things or bad things. I think the problem is everybody is so ideologically driven to attack one side or support another. They end up making absurd statements like, everybody should be happy with this style of monogamous sexual relationship in marriage and anything else is wrong, or everybody should be, in a polyamorous fucking 500 people and that's totally okay.
We'd say everybody deserves love that doesn't need to be satisfied by other people as sexual objects.
Who's exploiting me?
Who's exploiting you?
Yeah, you just said that if you do sex,
The CEOs that make millions of dollars from OnlyFans and don't have to take their clothes
you
off.
could say that about any industry in America. That you could say capitalism.
No, because most industries you don't take your clothes off.
It's possible to
See, so it's
exploit
taking the
oneself.
clothes off. It's the taking the clothes off that you issue. It's the moral issue.
It's not. No, it's not the moral issue. It's the commodification.
And it's possible to exploit oneself. That's why you can't sell your own kidney.
It's sad that she doesn't see that she's being used. That like you are just a commodity. No one really wants you. They just want to use you, and you're doing that. And this is such a short-term disposal of yourself. Let's be brutal. Especially in pornography, the guy's just looking for the hottest chick. They're going to forget about you. You're going to be a has-been. You're going to be a new hot chick down the block that's willing to sell herself. And you will feel so worthless. There was an interview with Michael Knowles on an ex-porn star who became a pastor. Thanks be to God. Hopefully he's Catholic later. And he was talking about the typical cycle of porn a porn actress goes through. They get into the industry, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. She's young, she's hot. She has a no list where they share what they will not do. And over time, as she loses popularity, they start to ask her if she'd like to do these no things. These things that she did not want to do. And she's, built this career of being this sexual commodity. So she's like, oh, well, what? I mean, like, I'm just trying to get, just to pump up my career, pump up my views, make some money. But slowly and surely, you just start to just denigrate yourself to where you wouldn't even recognize where you were. You wouldn't even envision you would have done that a few years ago, and you do. And then even when you do that, which a lot of them do, losing their dignity, they still get forgotten because, hey, they're just going to forget about you. You're old news, and you're getting old. And they feel completely worthless. They probably go to a strip club as a forgotten, guest star, has been, probably going to prostitution for real. And then they realize inside this such disordered disposal of their dignity, bottom emptiness for money. They still don't have enough because they didn't, really invest in any true work skill. They become poor, hopeless, without any sense of worth, and they kill themselves. That's what happened, and I truly hope and pray that this doesn't happen to her, because she really feels that she's just doing what's best and good, and I assume progressive, and it's just so evil and self-destructive.
So far, the only morality I've been able to ascertain from both of you is that there should be consent between two adults. Is that the only morality that you believe exists around sex?
That's a huge starting point, yes.
Is that the only morality that you believe exists around sex?
I can't answer yes to that because I'm sure we can think of some exceptions or there might be some other qualifier.
Well, you've thought about it a lot, clearly, and we're at this debate.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to ask me a hypothetical, like, what if when you have sex with somebody, it causes the fusion of two atoms and a hydrogen bond explodes? I don't know. In general, I think most morality is going to be built around a reciprocation of consensual respect for other people.
Okay,
yes.
so
How about consensual incest among adults?
If you want to do it, if you have a really hot sister, then go for it.
And there's, no harm.
There you go.
If animals consenting, then bestiality is okay.
See? Oh, I think it's going to get a lot worse, y'all. But if you have a really hot sister, go for it. I'm reading Catholics in Exile by Scott Hahn. Pretty great so far. And it talks about how it was the daughters of one of Cain's sons. They're raised in this completely godless place. There's no sense of like true good morality. It's just, it's literally just a city full of sodomites feeling that they were entitled to everyone's bodies. So they would just rape you. And their rationale for wanting to get the best of their father was to get him drunk and have sex with him and then just use him. I feel like the vast majority, 90+% of people think that incest is disgusting. It should be done. But honestly, I feel like the way we're going, if pleasure is considered the highest good and no longer the true love and the unitive love and the procreative part of it, if we just dispose that and just make pleasure the highest good, then yeah, why wouldn't incest be bad? Why would it be bad? Why would bestiality be bad? Why? There's so many things you would rationalize, and it just shows completely that's what they come to when you completely get rid of any kind of sense of truth and morality around sex aside from consent. Adults, and that's what you get. Absolutely disgusting.
I would rather if I was, I think sometimes even having sex with animals is better than some of the shit we do to animals, like moving their ovaries around, literally killing them in order to.
Wait a minute. Are you
Like,
saying
because
that you're
you're
saying that sex with
Wait,
animals
do you
is not as
think-
bad as killing them?
What do you mean?
Did you just say that killing them is worse?
I think killing animals is. It depends, right? It depends what you think.
Say that one more time.
What do you want me to say?
Just the way you said it.
Wait, like what?
Did you say killing animals is worse than?
No,
sex
I'm
with
saying
them?
sometimes the
I
experience.
think, wait, you can
we
bite the
do-
bullet. Yes, I think probably generally, yeah. Why? What's the next question? How could you possibly flip that? Do you disagree? Do you think that having sex with an animal is worse than killing it?
Yes, it is worse.
For who?
Because animals
For
are
who?
non-rational beings that we can eat. There's nothing immoral about that. Sex is for human beings. And
Okay,
I'm sorry
so
you guys
so you
just
think
can't
the sex,
see
so you
that.
think the sex, because we're not religious. So you think that the
It's
sex.
not
No, you're not
It's
saying.
not
You're an
religious.
insane person.
So wait, who is the sex worse for versus the killing worse for? Are you just looking at the perspective of the human and not the animal at all, or?
Who is it? No, I'm talking about the act. You're reframing it as what causes more or less harm.
No,
I'm talking
you
about
said sex for an animal is worse than killing the animal. I'm asking you
It's
worse
not
for
just
who?
for an animal. I think
I'm
it's
asking
for
who
an
is
animal.
worse.
the act of killing an animal is the act of sex with an animal is morally worse than the act of killing the animal.
So the only thing that has any moral perspective in your eyes would be the human.
Yes, because not the only thing. There are ways to treat animals that are immoral, like animal torture.
Like killing them?
Is it immoral? It can be immoral to kill an animal if you're doing it for a
In an-
cruel,
or an
for a
inhumane
cruel
way.
purpose or an inhumane way.
Cruel in whose judgment?
No.
Okay.
If you're stuck on a desert island and you find a wild pig there and you kill it to eat, that's not morally wrong. Because you want to satisfy hunger. If you're on the island and it turns out you're just horny and you use the pig to satisfy that, yes, that is morally worse.
Is it morally
Because-
worse if you just hunt to kill an animal just for fun?
Is morally worse
Is
than
it-
what?
Then is it morally worse to kill an animal because you just want to hunt for fun than?
Yeah, two people go into the forest. One guy's hunting with a spear, one guy's hunting with his dick. Who's more immoral there? The guy that stabs the pig and kills it, the guy that runs the animal and fucks it. and runs
is
away.
he gonna kill it
Which
with
one is
his
more immoral? Well, if his dick is big enough, maybe. I'm asking. No, I want to answer. What's more unethical? The guy hunting with the spear, or the guy hunting with the dick?
Why
The
is-
guy that throws the spear, he's more ethical to kill the animal than leave
It is
run.
it is much more gravely depraved to have sex with an animal than to kill it in a slightly more malicious way.
Depraved, it's not-
Ooh, that's pretty revealing, isn't it? But at least they're being logically consistent, right? I had a feeling they were going to admit this. This is what's going to happen. And honestly, I could see this being completely okay in 10 to 15 years. We've gone pretty far. I mean, we're already generally mutilating children and no one's saying shit. People are saying some shit, but they won't say it out loud. Not in the office, right? This is a lot. What do you even say to that? You know? What do you say to people coming to the logical conclusion that having sex with an animal is better than killing it for food, right? Or like resources, like, you kill a cow, you get a crap ton of food, and you get some fur, some leather, I should say leather, to use for, creating a bag or whatever. Like, that's, you needed it, and you used it, and it was given to us. I mean, it's available for us, I would say, by a creator, by a loving God, and then we have the ability to do it. Pretty cool. Versus using it, sexual gain. You're using it as an object. You're not loving it. Like, it's dumb that I have to explain it because it's so self-explanatory. Yeah, I had a feeling he was gonna get this bad, and I've never seen Trent like this heated. And even Lila got pretty into it. But yeah, it's because they're just dealing with completely morally depraved people.
I think ultimately what I would want people to consider from this, to go and look at the data and just to ask if sex work and prostitution and pornography are bad for society, look at what it actually is, not an illusion of what it is. Go online, go and look at the most popular search for things on Pornhub, X-Hamster, cam sites, what prostitutes say that men usually request from them. It's violent, degrading, and so it takes sex and it cheapens it and makes it ultimately meaningless. And so then it loses its power to be that amazing bonding force that unites people together and create a new human life. Like sex, it makes a new person. So of course it's going to attach people together intimately. We don't want therapists and doctors having sex with people. Sex is designed to attach people because when a baby is born, it's really good. Hey, if the people who created this child are bonded together in some way, and sex helps to do that. But if you turn sex into work, it destabilizes the important role it plays in society, and it leads to degradation, abuse, and all the things that we've listed. And that's why I think people should see past the illusion to see the ugly reality of it. So.
And
Isn't that so crazy? Like, how something so beautiful, if it's not used that way, if we choose to deny that actual use of it, like what it was made for, when we deny that, it becomes the complete opposite. Instead of it being a beautiful, loving thing, it becomes an ugly, exploitative. And the thing that is so fucked up is that we grow to like it. You don't find that disturbing? I love that they point to what sex could, and I feel like so many are just so blinded to it. So many are just not exposed to the beauty, the true, the good, and the beautiful. Some people get pissed. I think like Matt Fradd said something about, why are you Trent Horn on the whatever podcast? It's so degenerate. Yeah, it's a degenerate podcast. You have to go where the people are. Christ made it clear he didn't come here for the righteous. He came for sinners. So we need to go where the sinners are. We need to go where the people are. And I'm glad this is happening. That's all this is to say. I'm glad these conversations are happening on such a big platform. Praise be to God. Sex isn't bad. In fact, it is good. It is a beautiful thing. And I think that's something that's often mischaracterized. In terms of the Catholic Church, we think sex is disgusting, it should never be done. The only time you get a pass to do the bad things when you're married, and that's not true. Sex is a good thing. It's just corrupted like everything else. We live in a fallen world. Sin is in the world. With our sinful ways can corrupt the beautiful and the good and the true into the bad, the ugly, and I can't think of the other third bad thing, but the proliferation of sex work, of people to sell themselves as sexual commodities, leads to destruction. It leads to bad things. All in all, I think that this was an awesome conversation. I thought Trent and Lila did an amazing job. And y'all know I'm the Catholic, so I'm obviously going to be super biased. I just don't think that I feel like I would try to give them some benefit of the doubt. Not benefit of the doubt, but credit where the credit's due on the other side with Destiny and Jasmine. But they really just didn't, their arguments weren't good. They were really so prey. And I think most people will see that. Even the host saw that. When she was defending bestiality, he knew what he heard. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate y'all sticking around. The few of you that will, please give me a like and subscribe if you like this video. I really just want to go ahead and continue to create content that speaks to Catholicism in the world today, and our truth and beauty and good that Christ's church on earth is giving to everyone else, and is free for everyone. We don't own this truth. It's something that we know about, that God shared with us, and we want to share with everyone else and know his truth and presence and love. So again, God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my other videos and my music as well, and I'll catch you in another one. God bless you.